Developing tonight, new fears as ISIS claims responsibility for several deadly terror attacks this week in both Yemen and Tunisia. Has the Islamic State shifted its focus? Are we their next target? With me now, former Navy SEAL and author of Resilience, Eric Greitens, and former U.S. Navy commander, founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Good evening, gentlemen. ISIS definitely on the march. A month ago, the beheading of 21 Coptic Christians in Libya. Now Tunisia and Yemen. They seem to be growing exponentially. I'm going to start with you, Eric. How is it that this is growing so vastly across the globe? Are we next?
Well, what you're seeing, Judge, is you're seeing the spread of both this ideology and you're also seeing the spread of these tactics. So these tactics of suicide car bombings and truck bombings and beheadings, you're seeing this not only in Iraq and Syria, you're also seeing this in Yemen, you're seeing it in Tunisia, you're seeing it in Nigeria with Boko Haram. And in all of these places, what you're seeing is not necessarily increased operational coordination, but you're definitely seeing emulation as this radical ideology spreads and these tactics spread as well.
And, you know, Zuhdi, now Boko Haram is claiming, you know, their allegiance to ISIS or their agreement with ISIS. Boko Haram covering a certain part of the globe that, you know, a little more east and south, I guess. And, you know, we see Copenhagen, Canada, Australia. Are we next?
We certainly are, and not today there was out reports that they're threatening a list of our military, and as the FBI has reported, they're in 50 of our states. And I think what's most depictive this week is there's the two attacks. Tunisia was more of the front of the ideological battle because it's the only so far successful democracy after the Arab awakening. You had secularists defeat the radical Islamists, the anti-Islamist movement defeated the Islamist party and Nahda, and then Yemen is sort of the military front for ISIS, just like in Syria where they cut their teeth. They're fighting now in Yemen against the Shiite jihadists. So ultimately both really represent the ideological battle in Tunisia where there's an existential threat and then the military threat of the Shiite jihadists in Yemen.
You know, in Tunisia, I mean, they say Tunisia is one of the most educated Arab countries. I mean, they actually go into a museum. So now we're seeing malls and airports and airplanes and coffee shops. It's like they're trying to think of new ways and, you know, unusual places to go after victims and to make their statement. Eric, what do you think of that? How do we protect Americans?
Well, what they're doing, Judge, is terrorists operate by spreading fear. And so by attacking malls, by attacking museums, by attacking mosques, they're actually intentionally spreading fear. And one of the things that they're also doing is by putting out on social media these threats against U.S. service members. They're trying to inspire lone wolf attacks in the United States. What they're trying to do is to inspire fear. What we have to do is we need to build a plan that will inspire courage to actually take the fight to ISIS and make sure that they don't threaten American lives and those of our allies.
But Eric, the president is not going to do that. Zuhdi?
Well, one of the things...
Well, actually, and if I could fill in there, the bottom line is that we need a strategy. The president doesn't have a strategy, and they attack Tunisia because they want to destroy their economy. So they're filling in a vacuum. They see opportunity. And unless we start engaging both Muslims and the world in a battle of ideas against Islamo-patriotism, that vacuum is going to be filled by radical Islam, both on the Sunni and the Shiite side. But we don't have a military strategy or a long-term one.
History repeats itself. There's no question about the vacuum. But Eric, going back to you, we don't have a strategy. I'm almost tired of hearing it, and no reflection on you, Zuhdi, because I think that you're brilliant. But Eric, there's no strategy, and he's not putting boots on the ground. So what do we do? Just suck it up?
Well, you could think back historically, and one of the analogies that you can look at is actually the beginning of Special Operations Forces. You know, when John F. Kennedy started the SEAL teams in 1962, he brought an idea. He wanted to have organizations and military units that could bring a flexible response. And there was the idea that we needed to flexibly respond as communism was spreading around the world. What we need now is we need a strategy that's going to bring organizations like Special Operations, like our intelligence forces, so that we can work creatively in our allies to counter threats from Boko Haram in Nigeria, from ISIS in Iraq and Syria.
Doesn't the president have to sign off on any special ops?
Yeah, absolutely. This is ultimately the responsibility of the commander-in-chief to build a strategy like that.
All right, Zuhdi, last question. Yemen, Americans are out of there. A few months ago, we were winning there. Now we're out. Military, everybody. Are we just giving it up and letting the Houthis, supported by Iran, I understand, take over?
It sure seems that way. And the president's video that you started talking about earlier, who is he talking to? The Green Revolution that would have been the anti-jihadist Shiites that we'd want to talk to is not who he's talking to. He's talking to the Khomeinists of Iran. So we're basically militarily leaving and ideologically telling the anti-Islamist Shiites that we want nothing to do with them. The Houthis are part of the Iranian movement, the Khomeinist movement, and there's just a vacuum in Yemen.
All right. Eric Wright and Zuhdi Jasser, thanks so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Coming up.